PD says one woman is dead and 3 other people were injured in a shooting here last night off of 40th and Park. You can take a closer look at this home. That is where this shooting happened. Police say it's actually a rental, and people were hosting an after prom party at this home. That's when the shooting happened.
She wasn't supposed to be there as a victim. She was there as a mom. That Saturday evening, May 3rd, 2026, Brittany Marie Members was doing what proud mothers do. She was taking pictures. Her daughter was dressed up, hair done, ready for prom, one of those milestone nights that gets framed and talked about for decades. Brittany was right there for it. She helped set up the after party at a short-term rental on North Park Avenue on Indianapolis's near north side. There was a red carpet in the driveway, banners with her daughter's name and face on them, prom decorations strung up across the garage, food, family, people who loved them. She posted pictures that evening, proud pictures. The kind of pictures you post when your heart is full and you want the world to see it. A mother documenting a moment she had worked to give her child. By 1 a.m., she was gone. Brittany Marie Members was 38 years old. She was from Indianapolis, specifically the north side, where she lived, where she raised her kids, and where she died. She was a mother of 5. 5 children, the youngest still small, the oldest barely adults, and every single one of them woke up the next morning without her. The people who knew her personally don't describe her the way people get described in news reports. They don't give you the surface level stuff. What they say is that she showed up, that she was present in a way that meant something, that she was the kind of woman who would sit with you and have a real conversation, not the kind where someone is half listening and waiting for their turn to talk. A real one. The kind of person who makes you feel like what you're saying actually matters. The kind of person you don't replace when they're gone. You just learn to live with the space they left. And on the night she died, she was not somewhere she shouldn't have been. She was not caught up in something reckless. She organized a celebration for her daughter's prom night. She was keeping an eye on the door. She was being a mother. That is the only reason she was standing at that front door when they came. Now, there is something you need to know about the name Brittany was using online, because it matters to what comes later in this story. On her Facebook page, she identified herself as Brittany Grundy. And that name Grundy carries serious weight in Indianapolis. A cousin named Richard Grundy ran one of the most notorious drug crews the city had seen in over a decade. He is currently sitting in federal prison on a narcotics conviction. His own daughter died in an accidental shooting while he was already locked up. The people connected to that crew, they have been shot, arrested, killed, or imprisoned one by one over the years. An associate named Eric Butler, known on the streets as Lil E, was shot at a tire store on the Far East Side not long before any of this happened. When word got out that the woman killed at the prom party was going by the name Brittany Grundy, social media did what social media does. People started connecting dots. Retaliation. The Grundy name? Old beef bleeding into a new night. The theories started flying, and they have not stopped. But here is what Brittany's father, Hollis Members, wants you to hear. He sat down for an interview days after burying his daughter dressed in a black pinstripe suit, just back from the funeral home, and he said it plainly. His daughter used that name. She identified with that family, but she did not run with them. She was not part of whatever conflict people are trying to attach to her death. He said it with grief in his voice and certainty in his words. This, he said, is something totally different. We are not going to tell you what it is, because the investigation is still open, and we do not deal in speculation dressed up as fact on this channel. What we are going to tell you is that IMPD homicide detectives have confirmed they are actively bracing for retaliation. And when law enforcement goes on record with language like that, they are not talking about a random act of violence. They are not talking about a party that spun out of control from the inside. They are telling you, between the lines, that they believe this is connected to something ongoing, something that did not start on May 3rd and may not end there either. Brittany Members was a mother who spent that Saturday evening making sure her daughter had a night to remember. She took the proud pictures. She set up the decorations. She stood at the door, and when masked men showed up and tried to push their way into a room full of teenagers, she told them no. That decision, that one moment of a mother protecting her child, is what this entire case turns on. We are going to walk through everything, the timeline, the evidence, The gun photo that changed the shape of that night before the first shot was ever fired. The 100 shell casings. The white car with its lights off. The father who sat across from a reporter and described what was done to his daughter. All of it. But before we get into any of that, drop a comment below. Did you hear about this case when it happened? Were you in Indianapolis that night? Do you think the Grundy connection is real, or is this something else entirely? Let us know what you think. And if you are new here, subscribe because we are not done with this story. Not even close. Earlier that evening, nothing looked wrong. Brittany's daughter was a senior at Crispus Attucks High School, and prom night is the kind of milestone that families build around. The rental on the 4000 block of North Park Avenue was set up properly. Red carpet, banners with her daughter's name, decorations across the garage, a celebration that someone put real thought and real love into. Guests arrived, teenagers who had just come from one of the biggest nights of their high school lives. Family members, people who went to school together, graduated together, grew up together. By all accounts, this was exactly what it was supposed to be. A family gathering, a private party, a mother making sure her daughter's night extended past the dance floor and into something she would carry with her. Then a photograph got posted. Hours before the shooting, someone at the party uploaded a photo to social media. It was taken in the driveway, right in front of the prom decorations on the garage, the same red carpet, the same banners with Brittany's daughter's face. In that photo, partygoers were posing with guns. Not one gun, 4. 2 of them were large semi-automatic rifles fitted with extended magazines, banana clips. The location was visible in the background. The decorations were visible. The house was visible. Anyone who saw that photo knew exactly where that party was. We are not telling you that detail to place blame on anyone at that party for what happened next. We are telling you because it is a fact that investigators are looking at closely, and because it changes the entire shape of what followed. Somebody saw that photo. Whether it triggered a decision or confirmed one that had already been made, the party's location was no longer private from the moment that image went public. Just before 1 a.m., IMPD began receiving multiple 911 calls reporting shots fired in the residential area near 40th Street and North Park Avenue. Officers were already en route when additional calls came in, confirming that someone had been shot. When they arrived, they found Brittany Marie Members outside the house with a gunshot wound to the head. She was given immediate trauma care on the scene and rushed by ambulance to a nearby Level 1 trauma center. The doctors and nurses did everything they could. It was not enough. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. 3 other people were shot that night. 2 males made their own way to Methodist Hospital. 1 arrived in critical condition, the other stable. A 4th person was injured while trying to flee the house during the chaos. The scene those officers walked into looked, in the words of one neighbor, like a war movie. The front windows of the yellow 2-story house at 4002 North Park Avenue were riddled with bullet holes. Prom decorations were scattered across the driveway among evidence markers. The red carpet that had been laid out for a celebration was now a crime scene. Across the street, neighbor Salome Mitchell showed reporters exactly what a stray bullet does when it has nowhere else to go. It entered through his front window. It passed through the couch where his son always sits. It went through a wall. It stopped at his back door. That family was asleep. They were not at the party. They had nothing to do with any of it. They just lived across the street. Now here is the detail that tells you everything you need to know about what kind of attack this was. When investigators processed the scene, they recovered approximately 100 shell casings. 100. From multiple different weapons. And the evidence revealed that the shooting did not happen in one continuous burst. It happened in 3 separate volleys, 2 from the assailants outside, 1 from people inside the house returning fire. The car, a white vehicle caught on a neighbor's Ring camera, was seen driving slowly down North Park Avenue before the first shots rang out. Then it reversed back up the street. Then more shots. The vehicle was moving with its lights off. Deliberately. Slowly. A neighbor who watched from their window said it looked like the car and the people inside it were waiting, creeping forward, watching for people to come back outside, then opening fire again. This was not a robbery that went sideways. This was not a fight that started inside the party and spilled out into the street. This was not impulsive. Someone drove to that house with weapons already in the car. Someone coordinated 3 separate volleys of gunfire in a residential neighborhood full of sleeping families and teenagers in prom clothes. Someone made a decision before they ever turned onto North Park Avenue. The only question that matters now is what that decision was based on and who made it. Let's talk about what we actually know. Because there is a version of this story that social media has already written. It has the Grundy name at the center. It has retaliation as the motive. And it moves fast because it sounds like it fits. And then there is the version that the evidence is still building slower, more careful, and, in some ways, more disturbing. Because the evidence does not point to chaos, it points to calculation. Start with the camera footage. A neighbor's Ring camera picked up the white vehicle before a single shot was fired. It was moving down North Park Avenue slowly, lights off. That is not the behavior of someone who drove past a house and made a split-second decision. You do not cut your lights off by accident. You do not creep a residential street in the middle of the night by accident. The car knew where it was going, and when the first volley of gunfire was done, it did not flee. It reversed, back up the street, then it came forward again. Another witness watching from their window said it out loud. It looked like they were waiting for people to come back outside. The second volley was not panic, it was follow-through. 100 shell casings, 3 volleys, lights off, reverse, come back. That is a pattern. That is someone who came to North Park Avenue to finish something. Now, here is the moment that stops this story cold. The detail that Brittany's father, Hollis Members, sat down and gave to a reporter days after identifying his daughter's body at the funeral home. He described what he was told happened at that front door. Masked individuals, ski masks, came to the door of that house and tried to get inside. Brittany was standing there. She told them no. She did not know them. The party was not open. They were not getting in. And according to her father, the response from the man at the door was almost casual, almost like a test. He said, and these are the words Hollis Members repeated through grief that had not had time to settle, "So we can't come in?" And then he shot her point blank in the head. She did not run. She did not step aside. She stood at that door and she protected every teenager behind it, and they killed her for it. That single exchange, those 6 words before the trigger was pulled, tells you that whoever came to that door was not there to rob the party. They were not there to crash it. You do not put on a ski mask and drive across Indianapolis in the middle of the night with an SUV full of armed people because you want to get into a prom after party. You do that because you are looking for someone specific, or you are sending a message to someone specific, and the people standing between you and that target are a problem to be removed. Which brings us back to the Grundy name, and we want to handle this carefully because IMPD has not confirmed a motive, and we are not going to present rumor as conclusion, but the facts on the table are these. Brittany publicly identified herself as Brittany Grundy on Facebook. That same Facebook page is where the gun photo was posted hours before the shooting. Richard Grundy's crew has been systematically picked apart over the last several years. Shootings, arrests, federal convictions. His associate, Lil E., was shot at a tire store on the east side in the period leading up to this. And now, authorities are publicly stating they are bracing for retaliation in the wake of Brittany's murder. Law enforcement does not make that statement lightly. They make it when they believe the violence that just occurred is not isolated. When they believe there are people connected to what happened who are now potential targets themselves. When they believe that what started on North Park Avenue could continue somewhere else, on another night, in front of another house. This is the pattern that true crime audiences have seen play out before. In 2012, Chicago rapper Lil Jojo posted his location on social media hours before he was killed. In 2020, Dallas rapper Mo 3 was shot on a highway after a period of escalating public online conflict. Location intelligence posted publicly, picked up by the wrong people, used to find someone who did not realize they had just told everyone exactly where they were. The gun photo did not cause what happened on North Park Avenue, but it may have confirmed it. And Britney Members, who posted proud prom pictures that same evening, who was standing at that door to keep those teenagers safe, was not the intended target. She was in the way, and they shot her. As of right now, no one has been arrested. Let that sit for a moment. A woman was shot point blank in the head at her daughter's prom after party in front of witnesses, in a neighborhood with Ring cameras on nearly every house, with a white vehicle caught on footage, with approximately 100 shell casings recovered from the scene, and the people who drove to North Park Avenue that night have not been held accountable for a single second of it. Brittany Marie Members has been buried. Her father, Hollis, made the funeral arrangements in a black pinstriped suit, fresh from the funeral home, and then sat down with a reporter and talked about his daughter because he wanted the world to know who she was. Not what happened to her, who she was. He said something in that interview that does not leave you easily. He said, "No one knows unless it happens what it feels like to lose a child." And then he described what he saw when he identified her. We are not going to repeat it here. Some things do not need to be amplified to be understood. What you need to understand is that a father had to say those words out loud to a stranger with a camera because that is the only tool he has left. Because the people who did this are still out there. 5 children woke up without their mother, the youngest still small, the oldest barely stepping into adulthood. And Brittany's daughter, the senior at Crispus Attucks High School, whose name was on those banners, whose prom night Brittany spent months looking forward to, she will carry May 3rd with her for the rest of her life. Not as the night she celebrated, as the night everything changed. As the last night she had her mother. IMPD Homicide is actively working the investigation. Detectives are processing hundreds of leads, reviewing footage, conducting interviews, and following the evidence wherever it goes. Patrols in the Meridian-Kessler neighborhood were increased in the immediate aftermath. The department has confirmed they are bracing for retaliation, which means they believe this case is connected to a conflict that has not resolved itself. Which means they believe there are people walking around Indianapolis right now who are either planning something or expecting something to come back at them. 3 days after the shooting, on May 6th, residents of Meridian-Kessler gathered for a community meeting. And what came out of that meeting was something important, because the people who showed up were not just grieving, they were asking questions that an arrest alone will not answer. They want to know how a short-term rental in a quiet residential neighborhood became the site of a military-style ambush with 100 shell casings and 3 volleys of coordinated gunfire. They want to know what Airbnb and Vrbo's responsibility is when a platform enables anonymous rentals with no screening, no background checks, no mechanism to prevent a property from being used in ways that endanger an entire street of sleeping families. A neighbor lodged a noise complaint about that house at 7 p.m. that same evening. Hours before Brittany was killed, the house was already flagged. Nobody came, nothing changed. And by 1 a.m., a woman was dead, and a bullet had traveled through a neighbor's couch and stopped at his back door. That conversation is happening now at the city level, and it needs to keep happening. Because Brittany Members is not the first person killed at a short-term rental in this country, and without accountability built into these platforms, she will not be the last. There is one more thing worth saying before we close. Brittany's grandfather described the setup that evening, the red carpet, the garage decorated like a movie premiere, the banners with his granddaughter's face. He said they set it up so that when guests arrived, they could come through and introduce themselves, and then head to the garage for pictures. Like the movies, he said. They wanted that girl's prom night to feel like something. They wanted her to feel celebrated, and for a few hours, she was. Her mother made sure of it. And then some people came, he said, and they destroyed all of that, destroyed our lives. No arrests. Case still open, still developing. If you have any information about what happened on North Park Avenue in the early hours of May 3rd, 2026, contact IMPD Homicide directly at 317-327-3475. If you want to remain anonymous and still be eligible for a reward, call Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana at 31726-2TIPS. You do not have to give your name, you just have to make the call. And if this case moves you the way it moved us, if you think Brittany Members deserves justice, if you think her daughter deserves to see someone held accountable, then share this video. That is how these cases stay alive. That is how the pressure stays on. That is how investigators keep getting tips weeks and months after the cameras have moved on to the next story. We will be back the moment there are arrests, the moment charges are filed, the moment this case breaks open. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Brittany Marie Members was 38 years old. She was a mother of 5. She was standing at a door, protecting children who were not even her own. And she deserved to make it to morning.